Scientists say a rare Super El Niño could be forming right now, and some experts warn it may trigger extreme heat, floods, droughts, food shortages, and global weather chaos unlike anything we've seen in years. As of May 2026, the European forecast model is showing a 100% chance of a Super El Niño forming by November. NOAA puts the odds at 82% by July and 96% that it persists through winter. Those aren't guesses. Those are the most advanced climate models on Earth, and they're all pointing in the same direction. What is El Niño? To understand a Super El Niño, first we need to understand normal El Niño. El Niño is part of a climate cycle called ENSO, short for El Niño Southern Oscillation. Normally, trade winds push warm water across the Pacific Ocean toward Asia and Australia. But during El Niño, those winds weaken, and warm water starts moving eastward toward the Americas. That warm ocean releases huge amounts of heat into the atmosphere, and suddenly, weather patterns across the world start changing. Some places become much wetter. Others become much hotter and drier. Storm systems shift, rainfall changes, ocean ecosystems suffer, agriculture gets disrupted, and temperatures globally often spike higher than normal. A Super El Niño is basically El Niño on steroids. Scientists generally use that term when Pacific Ocean temperatures rise more than 2 degrees Celsius above average. And historically, those are the events that tend to leave the biggest mark on the planet. Timeline graphic, May 2026 through March 2027. So here's the timeline as we understand it right now. May to July 2026, El Niño likely emerges. We're probably already in the early stages. August to October 2026, rapid intensification. This is when we'll know if it's going super. November 2026 to January 2027, peak strength. If it's a Super El Niño, this is when the world feels it most. February to June 2027, gradual decay, but impacts linger, especially for agriculture and water resources. What could happen? Now let's talk about the part everyone wants to know. What could actually happen if a Super El Niño develops? First, extreme heat. Scientists warned that global temperatures could surge again and possibly make 2027 one of the hottest years ever recorded. Some experts even warn temporary warming could approach dangerous climate thresholds. That means stronger heat waves, longer summers, higher electricity demand, and greater health risks, especially for elderly people and vulnerable communities. Second, flooding. Some regions could see intense rainfall and powerful storms. Parts of the Americas may experience wetter than normal conditions. Heavy rainfall can overwhelm cities, damage homes, destroy infrastructure, and trigger landslides. Third, droughts and wildfires. While some areas get flooded, others may dry out dramatically. Australia, parts of Southeast Asia, Africa, and portions of South America often face increased drought risks during strong El Niño events. Dry conditions can devastate farming and create perfect wildfire conditions. And remember, many parts of the world are already experiencing extreme heat and drought even before this possible Super El Niño fully arrives. That's why scientists are paying attention. Food, water, and money. One thing many people don't realize: climate events eventually hit your wallet. Food prices can rise. Why? Because crops depend heavily on stable weather. Too much rain destroys harvests. Too little rain destroys harvests. Extreme temperatures stress crops and livestock. And when major agricultural regions struggle, global food supply chains get affected. That can mean higher prices for rice, wheat, vegetables, coffee, cocoa, seafood, and other essentials. Water shortages can also worsen in drought-prone areas. Hydropower systems may struggle. Fishing industries can suffer because warmer oceans disrupt marine ecosystems. And insurance losses from disasters can skyrocket. The economic ripple effects can spread everywhere. Even countries not directly hit by floods or droughts may still feel the impact through rising prices and supply disruptions. Global Impact Breakdown. All right, this is the section where we go around the world because El Niño doesn't affect every place the same way. In fact, some places get flooding while their neighbors get drought. Understanding these regional differences is key to understanding the full scope of this threat. North America. In the United States, a Super El Niño winter typically brings a split personality. The northern U.S. and Canada tend to get warmer and drier. Think milder winters, less snow, potentially worsening drought conditions in the Northwest and Northern Plains by spring. The southern U.S., from California through Texas to Florida, tends to get cooler and wetter. More rain, more storms, increased flooding risk. The ECMWF model specifically shows above-average precipitation in the northern Gulf Coast region. South America. This is where the contrast gets extreme. Northern South America, Colombia, Venezuela, northern Brazil, the Amazon, typically sees drier conditions during El Niño. That means elevated wildfire risk in the Amazon, reduced rainfall in the agricultural regions, and potential water shortages. But southern South America, southern Brazil, Uruguay, Paraguay, northern Argentina, central Chile gets the opposite. Above-average rainfall, increased flooding risk, landslides. The 2015-2016 event caused catastrophic flooding in this region. Peru and Ecuador's coasts see the most direct impact. The warm water is literally right there. Historically, this brings heavy rains, flooding, and infrastructure damage. The 1982 and 1997 Super El Niños killed thousands in Peru alone from flooding and mudslides. Africa. The impacts here are literally life and death. Southern Africa tends to get severe drought during El Niño. The 2015-2016 event caused maize yield losses of up to 50% compared to the 5-year average. Over 40 million people were affected, with 23 million requiring emergency aid. Asia. India is perhaps the most concerning. El Niño weakens the summer monsoon, and when an El Niño follows a La Niña year, exactly our current situation, the monsoon can be particularly weak. Southeast Asia, Indonesia, the Philippines, Thailand sees reduced rainfall and elevated drought risk. Indonesia's forest fires become more intense and prolonged. The Philippines saw $327 million in agricultural losses during the 2015-2016 event. China sees higher wintertime air pollution as altered wind patterns trap particulates over industrial regions. Australia. Higher temperatures, reduced winter-spring rainfall, and elevated bushfire risk. The Black Summer fires of 2019 to 2020 happened during an El Niño-like pattern. Australia's agricultural regions are highly sensitive to rainfall timing, so even average drought conditions can devastate wheat and livestock production. Europe. Southern Europe tends to see wetter winters. Northern Europe sees colder, drier conditions. This summer, models suggest warmer-than-average temperatures across the continent, with wetter conditions in the south and drier in the north.